Welcome to this webinar on the point-in-time count Unsheltered survey. My name is Amy Stetzel, and I am the project manager with Minnesota's Office to Prevent and End Homelessness. My boss, Kathy Tenbrook, and I have been working closely with all of the continuum of care coordinators across the state to prepare for this year's point-in-time count. On behalf of all of us, thank you for your time and commitment to ensuring individuals, youth, and families experiencing homelessness across the state are identified and connected to the services they need to become stably housed. This webinar will give instructions, explanations, and some helpful tips in completing the point-in-time Unsheltered survey. So what is the point-in-time count? The point-in-time count, or PIT, as I will usually refer to it, is one of the main ways we measure homelessness in our state. It provides us with a snapshot of what homelessness looks like across Minnesota at one point in time. The federal government requires that each state attempt to count all people experiencing homelessness on one particular night of the year. The federal government also requires that every state conduct their PIT count within the last 10 days in January. This year, Minnesota's PIT count is on the night of Thursday, January 22nd, 2015. The PIT count includes a count of people who are living in unsheltered situations, such as those who are living outside, on the street, in abandoned buildings, etc., and of people who are temporarily sheltered, those who are living in emergency shelters, transitional housing programs, or put up in motels through a social service program. This webinar will focus on the unsheltered portion of the PIT count. We do the PIT count for a few different reasons. It helps us to understand the scope of homelessness and identify trends so we can better target our resources, improve services, and identify gaps in service. We use data to justify current and new services and programs. Data helps us tell our story and makes the case for more resources. It helps build awareness, political will, and political support at the local, state, and national levels to have the right programs and services funded to meet the identified need. It is a critical source of national data on the number and characteristics of people who are homeless in the U.S. As we've already mentioned, the PIT count is a federal requirement. Additionally, the PIT count is the main data source used for measuring national progress in meeting the goals and opening doors, the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. And PIT count data is provided to Congress each year on the general population of families and individuals experiencing homelessness across the nation. Data collected throughout the PIT count is also used as one of the main tools to ensure and measure progress on our state's Heading Home plan to prevent and end homelessness. The PIT count is a statewide effort led by our 10 continuum of care regions throughout the state. Working together as a state is critical to achieve the goals of preventing and ending homelessness for the families, youth, and individuals who are experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness in Minnesota. Which is why for the first time, the same unsheltered survey tool will be administered across the state on the night of the PIT count, which is something we're really excited about. So what's new in 2015? Well, Taylor Swift rolls into 2015 with her top-selling album, 1984, edging out the Frozen soundtrack, selling 3.66 million albums in just 9 weeks. I'm sure what you're saying right now is, no, what's new in 2015 for the PIT count? Well, as we've just talked about, for the first time, the same unsheltered survey tool will be administered across the state on the night of the PIT count. This common survey tool was created in collaboration with all of the continuum of care coordinators in the state. This common survey tool will provide us with a strong foundation of data to work from to allow us to tell a better, more consistent story of what homelessness looks like across all of Minnesota by identifying trends and root causes from year to year and allowing us to compare for the first time differences in those stories between areas of the state, such as North versus South, Metro versus Greater Minnesota. As you probably know, Minnesota has committed to end veteran homelessness by the end of 2015, and so we are putting even more focus on this population in this year's PIT count. There will be much more detail on veterans coming up in the webinar, so we'll save more information on the subject for later. This year, COCs will be required to report the total number of youth households for both parenting youth and unaccompanied youth. HUD has expanded the transgender categories that include specifics for those identifying as transgendered. COCs will be required to collect and report on the number of persons that identify as transgender male to female and female to male. Additionally, persons identified in the multiple races category should also be counted in at least 2 other race categories. As I've noted, this year the entire state will be completing the same unsheltered pit survey. So this is one survey, and there's 3 different ways you can administer it. You can use any of the 3 formats for the unsheltered pit count. Each format is asking the same questions in the same order, so we'll be capturing the same data in the same way. Capturing the same data in the same way is the critical part of that last sentence. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. Using the same survey across the state allows us to tell a better, more consistent story of what homelessness looks like across all of Minnesota. Please refer to your COC coordinator or site director for direction on which format to use in your region. So the 3 formats are the one-page unsheltered survey, which is one survey that must be completed for each person in a couple or family. For couples, families, and groups of unaccompanied youth identifying as a household, attach each survey together and include a household ID at the end of the survey. All of this direction is actually written right on the survey, so you will see it there as well. The 2-page unsheltered grid survey. This is a longer format that allows you to fill out information for every person in a couple or family unit in just one survey. And the online tool, which the link to the online tool is provided here. Your COC coordinator has copies of the 1-page and 2-page unsheltered survey tools for your use. As I've said, the link to the online tool is provided on the slide. Your COC coordinators also have this link. Again, all 3 formats are the same unsheltered survey. The difference is in how you administer the survey. It is up to each COC region to decide which format they would like their volunteers to use on the night of the count. Your COC coordinator will provide direction to you on which of the survey formats you should use. All right, let's dive in and highlight some of the most important details to successfully completing the unsheltered survey. This webinar will not cover every question in the survey, as most of the questions are very straightforward, and many of the directions for completing the survey are written right on the survey tool itself. I've highlighted here those areas that are new or may require further explanation. Before we get going, please have an unsheltered survey in front of you so you can follow along as you watch this webinar. Getting started. As you know, first impressions can start any relationship off on good or bad footing. When you have a short interaction with someone that has the potential to ask very personal questions, ensuring a positive first impression becomes even more important to get right. Approach any respondent you come in contact with in the same way you would like to be approached to complete a survey. Introduce yourself, explain what you are doing, be respectful of their answers and their time, and remember to speak clearly. You will notice that as much as we could, we have tried to write clear directions for administering the survey right on the survey itself, including the initial, what I like to refer to as check questions. These check questions are questions 2 through 4 on the survey and are referred to as check questions because the respondent's answers to each of the questions determine whether or not you will continue asking them the questions on the survey. These check questions help us to make sure that we are asking the right people to complete the survey. You will notice that directions identifying which answers would cause you to stop surveying someone are written right on the survey tool. So, question 2 asks if you will be sleeping outside tonight or have been staying temporarily with family or friends. Please note that sleeping outside can mean sleeping on the street, in a vehicle, staying up all night, sleeping in an abandoned building, storage shed, fish house, or a home without functional utilities, or any other place not meant for human habitation. Please note that while HUD does not include being doubled up in their definition of homelessness, we as a state are interested in learning how many unsheltered people we come in contact with that are staying temporarily with family and friends. Questions later on in the survey will help us separate those who are doubled up from those who are HUD definition homeless. So if they answered no, they are not sleeping outside or staying temporarily with family or friends, stop the survey. But if yes, ask if they are willing to participate in a short survey. If they answer no, thank them for their time and stop the survey. But if they answer yes, they are willing to participate, ask if they have already taken the survey. If yes, they have already taken the survey, thank them for their time and stop the survey. But if no, they have not already taken the survey, then continue on to gather the data in question number 5. Also, please take a second to explain that the survey is, and all of their answers in the survey is confidential. We aren't taking down anyone's name or identifying information, and all of this data will help our community to better respond to the needs of people experiencing homelessness. So to sum it all up, use the Unsheltered survey if the respondent quote-unquote correctly answers all of the check questions, which are questions 2 through 4 on the survey. If you are able to gather the following initial information from the respondent, which is their initials, the first letter of their first name and the first 3 letters of their last name and their age, or if the person you are speaking to does not want to give you their initials or age, but will answer all of the questions in the survey. As I've said before, the check questions, make sure we are asking the right people to survey. Those are questions 2 through 4. The questions asking for initials and age are used to make sure we aren't duplicating information. Some people may not want to give you their initials or age, and that's okay. The important thing is if they are willing to answer all the other questions on the survey. Their answers to the survey questions are much more important than whether or not they want to provide us with their initials or specific age. If you cannot answer the check questions or the identifying information because you don't want to disturb someone who is sleeping or who may not be able to answer for a variety of reasons, but the person is clearly unsheltered, you should use the Unsheltered observation tool to gather information on the persons or people you are observing. Please note that since you aren't able to talk to the person that you are observing, you may not be able to answer all of the questions on the observation tool, and that's okay. Please just answer as many questions as you are able to. Your COC coordinator will provide you with the Unsheltered observation tool. Question 6 of the survey asks, where are you sleeping the night of January 22nd, 2015? So the night of Thursday, January 2nd, 2015 refers to any time between sunset on Thursday, January 22nd to sunrise on Friday, January 23rd. Depending on when you survey someone during the count, you may have to adjust the language for this question just a little bit. For example, if you are surveying someone at 5:30 a.m. the morning of Friday, January 23rd, you should ask, where did you sleep the night of January 22nd, 2015? You will notice that the last answer box you are able to check for this question is temporarily doubled up with family or friends. As I noted earlier in the webinar, HUD does not include being doubled up in their definition of homelessness, but we as a state are interested in learning how many unsheltered people we come in contact with that are staying temporarily with family and friends. This question will allow us to separate those who are doubled up from those who are HUD definition homeless. Question 8 in the survey asks about household composition. So let's take a moment to review HUD household composition definitions. These definitions mainly refer to different age group categories. An adult is a person aged 25 and older. A young adult is any person aged 18 through 24. A child is a person aged 0 through 17 who is living with a parent, guardian, or caregiver. And an unaccompanied minor youth is a person aged 0 through 17 who is not living with a parent, guardian, or caregiver. Additionally, youth is an umbrella term that refers to people aged 0 through 24, so it includes both young adults and unaccompanied minor youth who are not living with a parent or guardian. Youth may or may not have their own dependent children. So the first box under question 8 refers to adults aged 25 and older. If you are surveying a single adult, adult couple, or adult-headed family where the head of household is age 25 or older, please select a household composition type from this box that most applies to the adult you are surveying situation. Please note, single adult parents should be marked as an adult-headed family. Only single adults without children should be marked in the single adult category. The second box under question 8 refers to parenting an unaccompanied youth under the age of 25. If you are surveying a parenting youth, an unaccompanied single youth, unaccompanied youth couple, or group of unaccompanied youth presenting as a household, please select a household composition type from this box that most applies to the youth you are surveying situation. As I noted earlier in the webinar, this year COCs will be required to report on the total number of youth households in their COC for both parenting youth and unaccompanied youth. Please note, unaccompanied youth are youth under age 25 who are not presenting or sleeping in the same place as their parent or legal guardian. This group includes single youth, youth couples, and groups of youth presenting as a household. Questions 13 and 14 are asked to determine whether someone is chronically homeless for both the federal and state definitions of chronic homelessness. Someone is determined to be chronically homeless if they are an individual or family who is diagnosed with a disability and has been homeless for 1 year or more, or has been homeless on 4 or more occasions in the last 3 years. Please note, the state includes individuals and families that are doubled up in the definition of those homeless and defines long-term homeless as those that meet the federal definition of chronically homeless but do not have a disability, which is why you see questions regarding doubled up status embedded into questions 13 and 14. Question 10 asks respondents to identify their gender. New to the survey this year is that if someone identifies as a transgender individual, they will have to indicate if they are male to female or female to male transgender. This is a new HUD reporting requirement. Question 15 asks about ethnicity. Ethnicity options are Hispanic Latino or non-Hispanic non-Latino, and ethnicity should be reported for all individuals. Question 16 asks respondents to identify their race from a list of options. Race options are white, Black or African American, Asian, American Indian or Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and multiple races. At least one race should be reported for each individual. Please note, if the respondent identifies as multiple races, at least 2 specific race categories must also be selected from the race options list. All these gender, ethnicity, and race categories are categories determined by HUD. Questions 19 and 20 ask questions regarding disabling conditions and domestic violence. Please note that these 2 questions are both completely voluntary. You will notice that the direction, please inform the respondent that their response to the below 2 questions is completely voluntary, is given right on the survey. Please make sure to inform the respondent that their refusal to answer these questions will not result in any kind of denial of service. Questions 29 through 31 ask county-specific questions regarding location, length of time living in the county, and housing history. Questions 29 and 30 require you to insert the name of the county you are in when you ask the question. So for example, if you are asking respondents in Rice County this survey, you would ask, what part of Rice County did you sleep in last night? The next section of this survey is on veterans. This part of the webinar was put together by Eric Grumdahl, who is also with the state's Office to Prevent and End Homelessness and the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. Eric is our state's special advisor on ending veteran homelessness and is leading our efforts in this area. As you probably know, Minnesota has committed to end veteran homelessness by the end of 2015. That is enshrined as one of the priorities of our state's Heading Home plan. Since 2010, veteran homelessness has decreased by 47% in Minnesota, but we have more work to do. The point-in-time count is the critical vehicle for measuring our progress on this goal. Let me say a word about why we are focusing so intently on veteran homelessness. First, there's a clear moral imperative to ensure that those who have risked their lives for the nation we call home have a home of their own to go to. What is significant about veteran homelessness is that this moral imperative has motivated tremendous efforts in the private sector and at every level of government. Put another way, veterans are the one population where the resources dedicated to solving the problem are actually scaled at a level that we can solve the problem. That makes the need to reliably document our efforts even more important, so that we can show that when the right resources are available, we can end homelessness for every veteran and indeed for everyone else. Because it is critical that we identify every veteran and also have rapid follow-up with veterans experiencing homelessness, we have a new tool to use in conjunction with the point-in-time count this year. The Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs has created the Minnesota Homeless Veteran Registry to identify homeless veterans and connect them to the most appropriate services. The registry helps ensure that the contact you have with veterans on the day of the count yields better connections to the housing and supports that help with ending homelessness for every veteran you identify. Participation in the registry is completely voluntary for veterans and freely available so that anyone, shelter and service providers, friends and family members, or veterans themselves can be referred to join the registry. Again, all of the directions for the veteran-specific questions are written right on the Unsheltered survey tool itself. For the purposes of this PIT Unsheltered survey, please ask the following 2 questions to all individuals age 18 and older on the night of the PIT count. First question is, did you serve in the United States Armed Forces, which includes the Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard? Second question, did you serve on active duty or in the National Guard or Reserves? These are questions 32 and 33 in the Unsheltered survey. Anyone who answers yes to either question should be invited to join the registry. By mid-January, release forms for every part of the state will be available at the web address shown here. For every veteran who chooses to join, please complete the release form with them. At the end of the night, turn in all of your completed release forms to your COC coordinator or site leader. All release forms should be turned into a COC coordinator within 24 hours after the evening of the PIT count. COC coordinators will fax in all completed release forms to LinkVet at 218-346-2338. Remember, these forms contain personal identifying information, so please treat them accordingly and with care. If a respondent answers yes to either question 32 or 33, but does not want to be a part of the Veterans Registry, please ask them questions 34 through 38 on the Unsheltered survey. After the survey is completed, thank the person or people you have surveyed, print your name and indicate which organization you are with or your home-based PIT count site in the space provided at the end of the survey. Put the survey in a safe place while you are surveying others throughout the evening. Return all surveys and Veteran Registry release forms to your COC coordinator or site leader at the end of your PIT count shift. And please, within 24 hours of the count, all forms must be returned to a COC coordinator. That's both all the paper Unsheltered survey tools as well as all the Veteran Registry release forms. While the PIT count provides us with the number of those experiencing homelessness on a given night in our state, it is not just about counting people. It is also about making sure the right amount of resources are provided to connect people to the services they need. And on the night of the count, it may mean connecting people you come in contact with to services they need that very night. If you come across someone who needs help on the night of the PIT count, here are some resources for you to connect with. First of all, your COC coordinator. Have the phone number of your COC coordinator on hand. They know all of the resources available in your region and will be able to connect you with the information and resources you need. Street outreach teams. Not all regions have street outreach teams, but know if your region does. And if so, make sure you have their contact information with you on the night of the count. The Day One Hotline. Day One is a statewide network of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, youth and community advocacy programs in Minnesota. Day One hosts the statewide crisis hotline that connects callers to the nearest service or agency in their geographic area. United Way 211. United Way 211 provides free and confidential health and human service information and covers the entire state. 211 call centers are staffed 24/7 by trained information and referral specialists who quickly assess needs and refer callers to the help that they seek. The Senior Linkage Line. The Senior Linkage Line is the Minnesota Board on Aging's free statewide information and assistance service. The Senior Linkage Line covers all 87 counties of Minnesota and helps connect you to local services. LinkVet. LinkVet is available 7 days a week for Minnesota veterans and their families. LinkVet is staffed by a team of support specialists trained through the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. Here's some other resources for you. If you'd like to read more about the changes that HUD made to the pick count for 2015, please go ahead and read them here. Also, if you'd like to read more about the HUD point-in-time methodology, we've got the methodology guide for you right here as well. Again, my name is Amy Stetzel, and my contact information, as well as Eric Grumdahl's contact information, is listed here for you. Please feel free to give us a call or reach out to us via email. And last but certainly not least, dress warm, have fun, and thank you so much for volunteering to be a part of the 2015 Unsheltered Pick Count.